Hello everyone, I'm Sarah Boyling and I'm 1/3 of the evaluation team. I'm going to introduce the outcomes of the programme, the difference that Creative Civic Change made to communities, to project workers and to artists. Our evaluation identified 5 outcome themes: connection, confidence, creativity, skills and well-being. People felt more connected. 89% of respondents to Community, which is our creative survey, had met new people and felt more part of their local community. Artists realised there were other creatives living locally and told us how they now felt included in a supportive network of peers. Confidence grew. Confidence to get involved in creative and community activities, and confidence to step up from participant to leader. Community members are now running workshops, markets and events. Project workers too described how they now feel able to speak up and question those in power. Creativity was nourished. People discovered creative skills and interests they didn't know they had, or a creative spark that had been dormant for years was rekindled, with 89% of respondents saying they felt more creative. Projects valued, supported and paid artists properly, and this work led on to other commissions and opportunities. And for some, it was the catalyst to establish or re-establish their own creative business. The programme developed learning and skills. For many project workers, Creative Civic Change was transformative. They learnt about letting go, collaboration, listening and community leadership. The 15 communities worked with almost 900 individual artists, and those we spoke to told us how they felt able to experiment and take risks, learn new approaches, especially around co-creation, and develop their own practice. Finally, we saw how Creative Civic Change nurtured well-being. Feeling happy, proud and included were the top 3 emotions reported in our survey. People told us how their involvement provided an emotional support, so they felt better able to cope with life's challenges. The programme produced many joyful moments too, and its positivity and its collaborative ethos created a real sense of hope and possibility.
So hello, I'm Amanda Smethurst, the 2/3 of the evaluation team, and I'm going to share with you our reflections on the growing conditions, the things that make these changes possible. We've described these as the shared principles, resources and the support system for Creative Civic Change. These growing conditions have underpinned the work of the communities and were integral in the approach to the programme by the funders. We have observed 9 shared principles which were embedded in the programme and lived by everyone involved, the communities, funders, artists and evaluators. The most critical of these were trust and care. We see these as the taproots, the foundations from where other principles build. This feeling of being trusted enabled greater honesty between the projects and the funders. Project workers shared the challenges they were facing, and they didn't feel judged or concerned that they would be penalised if things didn't go to plan. They also gifted this trust onto residents, to artists and to partners. The projects created an interconnected web of care across project workers, communities and artists. Project workers spoke about how they felt cared for by their colleagues, how their emotional health was looked after. Artists described being supported and mentored by the projects. Many residents likened their involvement with Creative Civic Change to a family. We also identified principles like flexibility, which allowed people to try things out, inclusivity, positivity and saying yes. Creative Civic Change was resourced and funded over 4 years. This committed investment meant communities could confidently plan and lead projects that have made a real difference. Fundamentally, the programme couldn't have happened without passionate local residents committed to their community, who were keen to share and develop their knowledge and experience. There were elements of the programme which wrapped themselves around the projects and created a support system. Some of these were practical, like having an initial development phase, when projects spent 6 months listening to their communities and creating a shared vision. Others were more relational, from accessing bespoke support from critical friends and experts, to Grace, the Senior Programme Coordinator at Local Trust, who modelled genuine care and trust in all she did. Here Learning was an opportunity for the 15 communities to share experiences, with projects learning with and from each other. We created a space that celebrated successes and a place to be honest about the challenges and failures, knowing this is where the richest learning can sometimes be.
Hi everyone, I'm Anousheh Haghdadi from Beat Freaks and I represent the final third of the evaluation team. I'm going to talk briefly about our approach to evaluating the Creative Civic Change programme, focusing on 3 elements. First, collaboration. One of the most distinctive elements of the programme was that projects were encouraged to decide and measure the changes that mattered to them, rather than changes prescribed by the funders. This was a really exciting challenge for us as evaluators, to co-create that outcomes framework for the whole programme with the projects themselves. So we did this by using creative workshops where projects could explore the changes that mattered the most to their communities. Second, creativity. Creativity is so core to the programme that it was really, really important to us to thread it through our approach as much as we could. So one way that we did this was to co-design a series of evaluation tools with the projects to help us capture some meaningful quantitative data. We designed 3 tools, all themed around this idea of the community: a digital survey, a paper form, and a physical creative data capture tool. And that community motif has allowed us to present our findings to you in a way that feels really true to the spirit of the programme. A massive, massive thanks to artist Rebecca Davis from the Portland In Project in bringing this to life for us. Third, the power of stories. Whilst the quantitative data we have collected is powerful and useful, the impact of creative civic change can only be appreciated through the real stories of the people involved in the programme. Storytelling is the beating heart of our approach, and we recognised that early on. And we really leaned into this by making spaces available for sharing stories, by amplifying community voices, and by drawing stories and quantitative data together to tell that bigger, deeper, richer story. For that full story, please do check out the website via this link.
One of the things that surprised me about the CCC programme was, given the world-shattering impacts of COVID and the fallout from the murder of George Floyd over the last few years, was that actually when we spoke to projects towards the end of the programme, those outcomes that they thought about at the beginning were still absolutely crucial and fundamental. And it just, for me, really confirmed the value of having 6 months of really real conversations about what are the changes that we want to bring about in this place. And they stayed true the whole time.
It might not be a surprise, but unexpected. We didn't know COVID was going to happen. We didn't know COVID was going to fall within the lifespan of the project. And what we saw and witnessed was how communities and individuals worked with each other to support each other, the level of care, the level of consideration that they had, and the commitment to still making the project happen was really amazing. With creativity at its heart, for people in really difficult moments throughout that time over the past 4 years, has been a really special piece that we simply didn't know would happen at the beginning.
I think the greatest impact has been not actually just the feeling of happiness, which is what we often associate with well-being, but the connection and the support network that Creative Civic Change has created, which has really given people a place to go, to kind of leave their worries behind, to navigate this really difficult world that we're living in. We know that the arts has got great impact on well-being, but that sense of connectedness and support and family, I don't think I expected that.
One of the most powerful impacts on well-being in the communities that I have witnessed in Creative Civic Change is actually how the combination of creativity and connectedness has really given people kind of inner strength almost to cope with things in their lives that are real challenges, like bereavement, like court cases, things like this that take a huge amount of personal kind of resilience to get through. Creative Civic Change has actually helped people through those kind of life moments, which I think is very powerful and not something I expected.
So for me, the greatest learning for funders is about trusting and listening to the people that you're funding and trusting that they know what's needed within their communities. And because that's where they are within where they live. And trusting that a process around enabling resource to be used within those communities will lead to outcomes, but not needing to define and lock those down at the beginning. Really listening and holding that space for people to try things out, for people to get things wrong, for people to experiment is so, so valuable.
You can trust communities to come up with the outcomes that matter to them, and they will be invested in them and they will measure them, and evaluators can turn those into a programme framework that really works. For me, that's the biggest learning for funders.